Scrappy people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a life crafted layout using the Stitchers Twist Kits Explore collection plus the June cut files. I'm holding this down here so you can see it better. So I actually edited these cut files just slightly, and I made it life crafted album size, added the seek up here because it was just kind of stacked before, and then I cut out the rest of it, which said adventure, on some brown wood grain paper from an older Stitchers Twist line. I just found it in my stash, but I'm going to be using mainly the Explorer collection today to scrapbook these photos of our recent hike into the Smoky Mountains, and I have a plan already. You can see that I have this really adorable cutout from the cut file. Like, this is what it's supposed to look like, but I really want to use the inverse of it and create a layout like this. So I have little pieces that fit in here too, so I can start filling this out. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do in the background yet. I think I'm gonna put patterned paper back here. I was initially going to like splatter ink, but I think I would rather it be a little bit cleaner and put some patterned paper back here. So let's figure this out together. All right, so let me tell you, I made this a whole heck of a lot harder than it had to be by doing this. I decided that the best way to make sure everything aligned correctly was to glue down this bottom portion of the cut file to the backing paper. Yeah, no, that wasn't a great idea. It was pretty silly. I should have just backed it. I don't know. I think I just glued too much down. Maybe if I had just done like the bottom edge, it would have been better. So I didn't have a lot of papers left over from this collection to use. I did have like this strip of yellow paper that I wanted to use for the sun. So I decided that I would just cut it in half and layer it in the center so that the pattern like lined up correctly, just because I knew that I was going to put that white circle up there at the top in the middle of it. So I knew that you wouldn't really be able to tell that the papers were super layered in the background once it was all done. So I knew it would be okay. So I just went ahead and I layered those papers, and this is a great way. Cut files like this with very little space that shows through is a great way. They are a great way to use up your scraps. So that's kind of what I was going for here. I didn't want to print out any more of this collection just to back these cut files. So I decided instead to just use what I had left. So I had this scrap of brown paper left. I knew I wanted the words to match the adventure words that I had already cut out of this brown paper. So I'm gluing down this is where I really made it hard for myself. I'm gluing down the little bits and pieces so that the S and the K have better like definition, but I should not have glued down these little bits and pieces here. This is where I made it hard for myself. So if you're going to do something similar, do not glue down these bits and pieces until the very end, because it made it really hard for me to put the paper I want behind the mountains down correctly. So I didn't have enough of this paper, like it wasn't long enough to span the whole thing. So I just did the exact same thing that I did with the yellow, and I cut it up and layered it. And you can see down there in the bottom corner, it's got like the white where the white burst center was. So it kind of looks like there's nothing there, but there is something there, and it looks really good once everything is layered and put on there, because you can't really tell anyway. So I had these 4 photos that I want to put sort of at the base of the mountain, but they're going to have to cover up the mountains a bit because I need to be able to put that Seek Adventure down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually back all of these photos with papers from the collection. I'm going to go with the green and that floral. I'm really trying to keep the paper choices nice and bright. I did choose the darker green rather than the light blue, but I just thought that it would match the photos better than the blue did. But I'm trying to keep everything really light and airy for this page, which is not something that I do very often. I don't use white paper. I don't use minimal embellishments. I don't use cut files in this way very often. So I'm really trying to get outside of my box and try something new. So I've glued all of these photos together just on the edges, and I've stuck them down, and I've realized that I need to move it up a little bit more so that the adventure doesn't cover up too much of my photos. I'm trying to see if I want to offset it a little bit or if I still want it centered. I did still want it centered, so I covered up a little bit of that seek, which wasn't that big of a deal. I would have preferred not to have covered it up, but I didn't want to reorder all of my photos in order to do that. So I'm going to pop all of these letters up on pop dots so that they have height underneath them. I will spare you that process because obviously it's going to take forever to apply all of these pop dots to each of these letters. So I go ahead and turn off the camera and do that off camera. And now I've got all these letters down. I have cut my layout in half now that everything that was spanning the whole page has been put down. I've punched my holes. And now I'm going to add just a few embellishments to this page. I wanted to add this hiking is cheaper than therapy. I do pop up the end on a pop dot so that it has the same height all the way across as it does sitting on top of that adventure. I don't want to cover up the little foot of the R because I want to make sure that it's nice and readable. I wanted to use this little green tree so bad, and I do put it down, but it ends up coming back up because it just, like one little random green tree just didn't really match. This says the view from here. So I'm just kind of anchoring each side of my photo cluster with those two word bits. I don't want to add too many word bits to this page because the large title is more than enough. But I am going to add these butterflies, and they're just going to kind of fly in the sky. I do rearrange them a bit. I end up using all 5 of them to frame my whole layout. But I will need to reorder them a bit. And I'm popping these up on pop dots as well. So the whole goal here, because I'm doing very minimal embellishing, is to get some height and some layering with all of these embellishments popped up and, you know, flying around the page and creating some depth to the page. So I'm trying to decide where this pink one was a little bit larger than the rest of them, and it didn't quite want to fit on my page right. I do end up getting it, but I did struggle for a minute with the pink one. But I need to make sure that these span the page a little bit better, so I'm reorganizing them. I want them to look like they're flying in the sky, even though comparatively either those butterflies are very close to the viewer or they are the biggest butterflies in the history of anything. So I've got them all flying in the sky here, and I'm going to use this pink one as an anchor for this bottom photo. And I'm feeling like I need something else, but I don't want more words. And so when I go for this tab, it's just not quite right. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take some of these florals, because I felt like the ends of either side of the photo collage just needed a little bit more anchoring. So I'm going to take 2 different flowers and I'm just going to stick them right underneath the embellishments that I already have there coming off of the edge, and I really feel like that just grounds the whole thing a little bit better than it was before. And so I'm just going to trim off the pieces that are hanging off, and I actually repurpose the pieces that get trimmed off and I add more layers to the page. So once I decide which flowers I want, I felt like I needed more pink over here and not 2 blue flowers. So I'm going to stick this one down, and then I'm going to stick down the other one. How do I want this to frame? I really want to make sure that that red pop is not too sticking out too far, because it was really the brightest color on this whole page. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like drawing your eye and distracting from how clean and how bright and really almost pastel this page is, which I think is an interesting choice for hiking photos, but it came out really beautifully. And then I have another layout with these camping photo or these hiking photos using my summer camp collection that is super bright and super patterned. So it's going to be a fun contrast. That video is coming up on Sunday. So that is it for this video. I'm going to finish layering these flowers and call it good. So if you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. And I will see you next time. Thank you.